meeting is being recorded.
All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to today's meeting of CSBARS. I'd like to get started by having roll taken so we can establish a quorum.
Absolutely. Paul Kramer,
Present.
George Leal,
Here.
Kevin Marshall,
Present.
Jessica Park,
Here.
Karen Travis,
Present.
and Linda Keller.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum.
Okay, great. Next, let's open for public comment. I understand we did not receive any written public comments or advanced sign up, but if anyone is in attendance who would like to speak, you can use the raise hand feature or *9 on the phone. If anyone is present, you'll have 3 minutes to provide your public comment. Do we have anyone today?
I am not seeing any public comment virtually from the webinar, and I also believe we do not have any public comment in person.
Okay, thank you. Then we'll move on to the approval of the March 12th CSBARS meeting minutes. Any suggestions or comments or a motion with regard to the approval of the minutes?
I only had a quick thing. I know there's always the editorial, but there was just a typo on the last page with adjourn. And then I did look through the discussion, and I appreciated that, you know, our discussion about demographics and such and was included. So with that, since that's just editorial, I can move to approve.
Okay, great.
Second.
Okay, so we have Dean Park moving to approve and Paul Kramer second. We take the roll, please.
Paul Kramer,
Yes.
George Leal,
Yes.
Kevin Marshall,
Yes.
Jessica Park,
Yes.
Karen Travis,
Yes.
and Linda Keller.
Yes.
With 6 yeses and no nos, the motion carries.
Okay, great. I have a very brief chair's report. As you probably know, the CBE meeting is Friday, this Friday, April 19th. So I just wanted to call a couple of items to your attention. There is an item on strategy to improve outcomes in the unaccredited law schools. This is something that was before CSBARS previously. The staff is asking the CBE to identify potential options for further analysis and proposals to be considered at a future meeting on that topic. Potential items include the use of standardized exams to inform admissions, researching methods to track and reduce attrition, collecting additional demographic data tailored to non-traditional students, or phasing in minimum cumulative bar pass rates for unaccredited schools. There is also an item special set for 10 a.m., the action on cost reduction initiatives related to the bar exam, beginning with the February 2025 administration. This, of course, is the item related to the efforts to retain a new vendor to develop multiple choice questions for the February 2025 bar exam to replace those provided by the NCBE. Having non-NCBE questions would allow the state bar to administer the whole exam at a vendor-owned test center or remotely, or some sort of combined choice approach. So again, that is Friday at 10 a.m. Okay, that is all I have for the chair's report. So let's move on to the staff reports. And I believe Natalie will start us off on
Linda?
the first item. Yes.
Just one thought. public comment will be received starting at 9 a.m. though. So if you have comments to make about that item, you want to, you won't, I don't think we'll be having comment during the presentation of the item. It'll be earlier.
Yes, thank you so much for that reminder. Yes, so 9 a.m. public comments, actual item up at 10 a.m. So at least now, folks, I appreciate the special set for those of us who can use that specific time to help plan our schedules for the day. All right, great. Okay, now.
I'd like to think that we're compelling television, though.
Oh, always, always. Natalie,
Sure, and
start us off.
thanks, Dean Keller. And of course, you can also submit public comment in writing to the address on the CBE agenda, just as you can submit public comment here to the address on this agenda. So thanks, everyone. I want to remind the members of CSBARS, but also those that are here in the public, as the bar exam approaches in July, there will be another opportunity for applicants to register for free for the Bar Strategies and Stories program, also called the Positive Mindsets in Legal Education program. This is not run by the State Bar, but rather by a consortium of researchers who created the design. And you register through that consortium. So those that want to participate can do so by signing up through the emails that they receive to register, and those that are registering for the bar exam will automatically get those emails. They're tentatively sent out, scheduled to go out on April 19th and also May 7th. The deadline to sign up is June 1st. We always, of course, encourage people to sign up as soon as they get their email so that it doesn't get lost in the flow of their email boxes. And then further, as a reminder, once they sign up, the product will be issued in 2 waves. Those that sign up with the earlier date will get their wave in May. Those that sign up at after the later email will get their wave in June. And the idea is to take that as soon as you can, because it sets the stage for the students, the applicant study. So sometimes people wait until the end, and it's helpful at any time, but it's most helpful to take it right away. And we greatly appreciate those schools that have worked this into their bar exam prep for both applicants that are just finishing their studies as well as alumni. And we hope that that trend will continue. We do have a page on the website, and Teresa, is it possible to bring that page up so you can see that you can link to in your communications to students if you'd like to reach them a way other than email? Sometimes we've heard that email should be only one of several ways that you reach out to students and applicants.
Oh,
And
sorry.
so, thanks.
Sorry
And
about
so
that.
that page will remain up there. We'll place it in the minutes, but also they can search in the search box for bar strategies and stories as well, and so can your bar prep folks. The page is helpful because it talks a little bit about the background, the use case, why it matters to take this program, and we're very pleased to be able to offer this to applicants at no charge yet again for this exam. Are there any questions about this program or thoughts about how this program is being used in your schools right now? Dean Park.
We're always very excited to be able to talk about this program with our students, especially in our CBX workshops. And we have sort of the news forum posting there, but our Dean of Academic Success likes to talk about this with students and be able to mention this early. So I do remember it being a suggestion of mine way back. I'm really glad to see the follow through, to see that it has a home on the State Bar site that we can point students to. And I look forward to really posting an announcement to them even earlier, so they have their chances to sign up soon. So thank you for this.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions or thoughts before we move on to our next topic? Okay, well, thank you.
Okay. Okay, so up next, we have a report on updates to the State Bar Enrollment Guide for new admittees. Not sure who is here to cover that.
Yeah, so we've brought Vicky Avila from our ARCR team, who is responsible for creating the enrollment guide and also working with individuals once they reach the point of getting ready to take their oath and get ready for licensure. So Vicky, welcome. Thank you for joining us from ARCR.
Hi, Natalie. Thank you so much. It's very nice to meet everyone. My name is Vicky Avila, and I am a program supervisor in the Division of Regulation. And one of my responsibilities that I oversee is overseeing the processing of oath cards and handling new admittee inquiries and providing bar numbers. So in my short presentation, just wanting to go over some common questions that we receive. Teresa, if you wouldn't mind pulling up the slides, I'd appreciate it.
1 second. Let's get them up here.
Perfect. Thank you. So just next slide, please. So a few things that we're just going to go over are common questions are how does a new admittee enroll, how the date affects their fees that they're assessed, and common mistakes to avoid during that enrollment process. We highly encourage for deans as a part of the counseling sessions, with senior attorneys to review the enrollment guide really before they're on the motion, just so that they're prepared and they can submit their oath card as soon as possible and they can get their bar card. And just as a FYI, cards are processed on a first come, first served basis. And so we try and get them processed as soon as we can, but unfortunately we're not able to jump in if people need their bar number sooner for a position that they're applying to. So, the cleaner the cards are, the quicker we'll get them out. Next slide, please. Okay, so how to enroll with the state bar. So usually the initial email will come directly from the Office of Admissions, and this is with the oath packet. And then secondly, they'll receive a second link, which basically just contains the new licensee registration and attorney oath form. It's a 2-page document, but really the second page is what we use to process the cards. And that is the attorney registration information. And that includes the basic information of name, address, public phone, public email, law school, and locations where there are other bars where they're admitted to practice. And excuse me. And then there's the oath section, which is signed by the licensee, as well as they can either have it notarized or they can have it signed from an officer administering the oath. And so that's the second part. And then questions in regards to eligibility should really be directed to the Office of Admissions. And then once they sign their card, and if they need statuses, they can always reach us at oathcard@calbar.ca.gov. Next slide, please. Okay, so a common question that we do receive is, what fees am I going to be assessed? Depending on when the new admittee is admitted. So first year's fees are based on the date of admission, and the date of admission is the date of when the oath is actually taken. And so this is just a breakdown. You'll see by date, and this is for the 2024 annual fee schedule. We don't have 2025 yet. So during this time, if they are admitted between June 1st and November 30th, then they're only charged half year's fees. Then come December 1st to December 31st, they are waived. However, if they take an oath, let's say December 15th, the fees are waived. However, the full year activity fees for the next year will be assessed. And automatically, the new admittees are entered in as active attorneys. So if they need to transfer to active, they will need to submit, or inactive, excuse me. If they decide they would like to transfer to inactive, then they would have to submit a form separately, but they are automatically enrolled as active attorneys. Next slide, please. Okay. So these are just a few common mistakes that can delay your enrollment. One is taking the attorney's oath before you're eligible. Sometimes, one person might receive their email that they're ready to take the oath, and then they forward it on to a friend, but they haven't received that notification yet. Please, they should not be doing that. That will cause us to hold on to their card, and we'll have to reach out to them. So please wait for the Office of Admissions to notify the new admittee before they're permitted to take the oath. The second one is that they sign their form before they've completed all changes. So DocuSign, they should already really have scheduled their oath and before they even start signing. So it's highly encouraged that the date that they sign matches the date that they are sworn in. The third one is a new admittee submits their form with a name that does not match the name shown on the notice of results that we get from the Office of Admissions. They should be using the exact same name, and if they need to make a name change, then they should be submitting a name change form, which is available online on the CalBAR website. And then, first part, the oath card. Secondly, then we can do the name change after. The fourth one, if they do not provide an address. So it is required that they provide an address and a telephone number for state bar purposes. And if they do not provide that information, that again, we will have to hold off on their card and reach out to them and ask that they fill that out. And lastly is submitting the card without their signature or the person who swore them in. This really will, again, we have to reach out to them and say, please, you need to fill this out again with the valid signatures, and then we will process that once we receive it. Next slide, please. And with that, I just want to say thank you for your time. And if you have any questions, please feel free. You can reach out to me at oathcard@calbar.ca.gov. That inbox is checked daily. So yes, thank you.
Okay, I don't see any questions. So thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it.
Sorry.
Sorry, Dean Park has a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I did want to just check, thank you so much for giving that presentation. I know that there's links at the website for the oath card. And so just to make sure that your presentation aligns with the kind of information that's there, if we direct the student to there.
So what's available is a copy of the enrollment guide. And that's the link that if you go, I think if you just type in virtual oath packet, it'll list everything that's included, and one of them is the enrollment guide. As far as a copy of the oath card, I don't believe that is included. I don't believe it is, no.
Okay,
But
I just wanted to make sure what's on the website matches, to the presentation, because
oh yes,
that's usually what we direct students to.
yeah, basically everything that has been shared is on the enrollment guide, including the fees, the what not to do's. And one thing I didn't include, but there is a step-by-step guide and the 6 steps on basically how to fill out that form.
Great, thank you.
No problem.
Great, thanks. Any other questions? Okay, great. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Take care.
So we'll move on to the report on application procedure for CSBARS. I believe Teresa is going to take this one.
Yes, thanks, Chair Keller. Hi, everyone. So I wanted to just give a reminder that CSBARS applications are open. The deadline to apply is June 30th of this year. You can find the applications by going to our website, navigating to who we are, and then committees, and then you'll find the CSBARS committee there, and the application is right there with also more information about the committee and and how to submit the application. And then, yeah, just as a reminder, so the CSBARS is a 7-member committee. So there's 3 deans from accredited law schools, 2 from unaccredited law schools. We have a representative from the CBE, and then also there is an accreditation expert member. So right now we have 1 vacancy for an accredited law school dean coming up, and then 2 vacancies for unaccredited law school deans. So 3 positions that we are filling. And a little bit more about the procedure as well. So those applications will be due on June 30th, as I mentioned. The appointments are made by the chair and the vice chair of the CBE. That happens around the August or sometime in the late summer. And then terms begin in the fall. So that this time around, that will be in September or October of this year, 2024. Does anyone have any questions about the process? All right, I'll take silence as a great explanation.
Exactly. Yes, thank you so much. I think we can move on to recent developments. I believe we have Ken North give us some more information about a new LAP program.
Thanks, Dean Keller. While Teresa is recognizing him, I also want to welcome Suzanne Grant from our Office of General Counsel, who is attending on behalf of OGC for this meeting.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you very much. I should have just appeared on your grid. My name is Ken Norris. I'm a senior program analyst with the Lawyer's Assistance Program in the Office of Professional Competence. I joined the Lawyer's Assistance Program in October of this past year from McGeorge School of Law, where I was Director of Student and Career Services, and it's my absolute pleasure to take this mission statewide through this role. So if you bear with me, I'm just going to share my screen. I have a little presentation to go over with you on our new General Bar Examination Retaker Support Group overview. Just a moment. Excellent. So 2024 bar exam, we're rolling out a retaker support group for the reasons that I'll discuss in just a moment. I was very happy when I first joined the state bar that I was given an assignment to create a 4-week bar prep support group so that we could expand our support services to bar applicants. It was really a daunting assignment when I first got it. You know, as you're aware, the numbers are just very large in our state. Last year, there were just under 8,000 takers total, and I really had to get my head around how we could best slice and dice this group to provide the most impact possible. Of course, I conferred with academic success professionals from a variety of types of law schools in California. I'm not the expert in this role. It's my job to identify the experts and learn from them on behalf of the state bar. I also talked to the head of the DC bar exam support group that's led by their LAP program as well. Sharon Greenbaum has been an incredible resource in the structuring of this. And our program differs in a few ways that I'll mention as I review the program itself. I was also given access to a lawyer's assistance program therapist for any mental health related programming that we felt was important to include. And then we wanted to make sure that it was complementary to the existing asynchronous strategies and stories program. This program will be live, we'll have interactive sessions, and we're focusing both on mental health as well as really important study skills. So I'd like to address why we decided to focus on retakers specifically. As I'm sure you're aware, the greatest predictor of bar exam failure is having failed in the past on the bar exam. By limiting to retakers, we could also enable a focused content and support development for this. If we had considered all, 8,000 takers of the bar exam, we would have been really scattered in our efforts. And then finally, and incredibly importantly, it furthers the state bar mission to support efforts for greater access to, and in this case, inclusion in the legal system. Just in general, retakers often carry the added weight of previous disappointment, self-doubt, and the pressure of not wanting to repeat past mistakes. Their bar prep process involves not just a rigorous review of legal concepts and practice questions, but also the need to overcome personal hurdles, such as managing stress, rebuilding confidence, and sustaining motivation over an extended period. And it was really due to these specific characteristics that we felt a targeted program would be good for this pilot. And then upon looking at retakers, there are actually two kinds of retakers that we need to keep in mind when developing programming. First of all, immediate retakers who are going to find out in just a matter of weeks that they did not pass the February bar. And these retakers will need to rapidly rebound and get in a state of mind to properly prepare for the July bar. And then what I'm calling delayed retakers. These are retakers who failed in the past, but not necessarily the immediate prior bar. And often these retakers need to re-engage with the material. So taking a lead from the DC bar, I've structured 4 days of programming over a 5-week period. The first and 4th sessions will be focused on mental health support. And our first one on May 20th from 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. to accommodate people who might be working and commuting will be Resilience Reset, mind-body balance for exam success. And we are relying on Laura Lisby, who's a licensed social worker, and she's been leading California Lawyers Assistance Program groups for just under 8 years at this point. The second and third sessions are focused on study skills. The second one, which will be on June 3rd, we're providing sort of a hiatus during the Memorial Day week, will be called Strategize for Success, Mastering the MBE and Beyond. And I am thrilled to report that this session will be led by Mary Basic, who's Assistant Dean of Academic Skills at UC Irvine, and Tina Schindler, who's now Associate Professor of Law at Western State College of Law. And Mary Basic and Tina Schindler have literally wrote the book on California bar preparation, and I was incredibly happy that they are part of this initiative. The third session on June 10th, a week later, will be Techniques for the Final Push, Building Confidence with Essays, a Performance Test, and Memorization. This session will be led by Lindsay Harrington, who's Director of Bar Support and Assistant Professor of Law at McGeorge School of Law. And then finally, Laura Lisby, the individual therapist who leads our group sessions, will be leading the Mindset Mastery, Self-Compassion, and Self-Care for Confidence session, which is our 4th and final session. So the arc begins with mental health, helping retakers get into the proper mindset that they need to be in, study skill, 2 sessions of study skills, and then completing it with tools to help retakers get through the final study push. Of course, we're very interested in evaluating this program. There will be surveys sent out after each session to gather input on a format, content, and utility, as well as any follow-up questions that retakers might have. We plan on issuing a frequently asked questions or information, or sort of giving an information sheet to retakers based on the content of that material. And of course, I'm very interested in your questions, comments, and feedback. This is the first time I'm actually presenting publicly on the program, and your input will help shape the program, and I encourage you to reach out with any thoughts or suggestions to me at the State Bar. That's ken.norse@calbar.ca.gov. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions? I see Dean Marshall.
Yeah, yes. How are we getting this information to all the retakers? Is my question. And then kind of connected to that, are you sharing your presentation on the webpage, or can you share it with, for example, I would be interested in sending this out to all of our alums and telling them about this new program.
That's a great question. And of course, we thought about a communication strategy with retakers. We're working very closely with the admissions office this week to send out initial invitations to what we're calling delayed retakers. Of course, the immediate retakers won't have their results for a few weeks. So we're anticipating 3 waves of invitations. This week, an invitation will be sent to those delayed retakers. The week after May 3rd, invitations will be sent to those immediate retakers. And then there'll be a 3rd wave to try to catch everyone who's registered between that point and the end of May. Great question. So in terms of whether or not the presentation will be available, I'll actually have to rely on Teresa and Natalie for that. I'm certainly able to give them a copy of my presentation, but we were not planning on making general advertisements of this. It is limited to retakers of the general bar exam who graduated from California Law School. So there are sort of these 3 criteria for this initial pilot that we're using.
Will you be recording these so if somebody has to time shift that's in the target group, they can view it later?
We'd certainly like to record them. No decisions have been made yet about how the material might be available after the live presentation. That's something that's still in discussion, but I'd love to hear people's feedback about it.
You're using Zoom, right?
That's correct. It'll be, very similar to this format where we will have attendees and panelists.
Okay, be easy to do anyway.
Yeah.
Limiting access after the fact to those people might be a little more complicated, but
Thank you. Yes, Jessica?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I had a similar question about meeting format that you answered, so thank you for that. I was just curious for these 3 waves. Is there any other criteria to be aware of? You said all California law schools that have taken the California bar exam before, but
So
yeah, just
it's general bar exam, so we're not looking for attorney retakers. Anyone who has to take that general bar exam, again, not the attorney exam, graduate of California Law School. Those are really the 2 criteria that we're using for this initial pilot. I'm just looking, I can give you some numbers. I met at the end of last week with the head of admissions who let me know that in this initial wave, we'll have about 750 invitations out. If we're looking at just 10%, that's 75 people right there, which is a large group. And then, with 5%, half that. So, I think we're going to be looking at good numbers. I can tell you that the DC bar only focuses on mental health issues, does not touch on any study skills. They get a couple dozen people every cycle, so not that many people actually attend. I thought it was important to open up the subject matter a little more. People were going to have these pressing questions about how to best study, under crunch, when you're working, time management, all of this.
I really do like to see, I like seeing the spread of topics but that there was that closing loop of starting with mental health and going to mental health later, knowing how much positive mindsets are there. I'm just, again, it's just curiosity, especially if we are sort of e-blasting out. I want to make sure to prevent confusion if possible.
Yeah.
So, and I'm at a small school, so, each year we go back, it's a certain number. But to get to your 750, is there a certain time period that you were looking at going back into the past?
No, it's people who've registered to retake the California bar. So we are not soliciting people who might have taken it 2 years ago. These are people who've actually registered. We wanted a committed list of people rather than just doing a broad, broadly casting the invitations at this point. So it's a very targeted invitation.
Thank you for that. I think I missed that, but it makes sense then. People who registered for the upcoming bar exam and who are retaking it, and who's not an immediate retaker, meaning they're not waiting for results from the immediate prior exam.
That's
Great.
exactly right. And that's how we arrived at that 750 number. Yes.
Great, thank you.
Dean Marshall. You're on mute.
I think you might be muted.
You're still on mute.
How about now?
Perfect.
I know I have, and I know several of us have really tried to figure out the psyche of the retaker. And they tend to go into an abyss. And I think this is, trying to get them back in the saddle and re-engaged, obviously is a very, very important mission for us all, in terms of driving success on that bar pass rate and achieving this inclusive California bar profession. So I'm just wondering what we can all do to get them to trust in what the state bar is doing with this program. And that's why I was asking, if we could have your presentation and the deans could promote it, just to get them to, some of them don't trust their schools because they say, I did everything my school told me to do. I didn't pass the bar. So I think this is a wonderful opportunity for us to move the needle. And so I just want you to really explore how can we contribute to getting these retakers to participate, to at least wink at, look at, and show up at these presentations.
Thank you for that really important comment. I have another meeting tomorrow actually with communications, State Bar Communications, and I will absolutely be adding that to my list of topics for us to discuss ways that law school deans could be able to. The one downside is that it could be a retaker from 4 or 5 years ago. Your law school might not have as much contact, but who knows, any communication might assist. And you're right, I take this mission very seriously to help these retakers. It's really you hit the nail on the head with saying, we have structured the very first session being mental health to try to help these people get back in the saddle.
Thank you. Dean Travis.
Yes, I'm interested too if there'd be any reach out to retakers previous to or prior to the most recent exam. We have our own program where we stay in touch with all of our past bar takers, and we try to kind of pair them up with other of our alumni who have taken the bar more than once to get that support. But in terms of trying to just encourage a past bar taker to give it one more shot, I feel like we need some help with that. Is that something that you intend to do in your program, or are you limiting it to the immediate bar exam?
So we are welcoming anyone who is a retaker who has registered for the July 2024 bar. So that would include anyone from any, 10 years ago who took it, who's taking it again. So it's really everyone will be identified for us, fortunately, by the admissions department. Anyone who's a retaker who has registered for the July 2024 bar. So we're really relying on the fact that a bar retaker has fully registered for the bar and has a complete folio, and then they will be included on this. And again, we're doing 3 pieces of outreach, one this week for the delayed retakers, one the week of May 7th, I think it is, for immediate retakers. And then we're going to do a final sweep after that to get everyone who is registered. So the way retakers are able to take advantage of this is to actually register for the bar. That's sort of like the one thing that we're requiring, total commitment to the bar.
And then who would the email come from?
That's a good question. It's going to come from the admissions department, I believe, promoting this program. So the list of people who even have registered to take the bar is so confidential that I am not going to see that. It's going to be the admissions who will send it out. So I would say it's likely it's going to be sent from an admissions email is what my prediction is, although I will learn more tomorrow during that final meeting with communications.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm just going to jump in real quick with me, Dean Park, before I forget. You mentioned in response to Mr. Kramer's question about whether it would be recorded, that you would be interested in feedback on that. And knowing our population of retakers, I think that would be really key to maximizing participation if they were able to have the choice between the live Zoom and a recording.
Thank you.
Yes, Dean Park.
I wanted to build off of Dean Marshall's comment about what we can do and really wanting our engagement of our students in this resource to be high. So I definitely think one thing that the law school deans are able to do is, for example, call or use other means than email to check in and let the students know about the opportunity. But again, I would want to avoid confusion. So this is somewhat of a question, but also a suggestion. Is there any way that perhaps in terms of allocation lists, law school deans can receive those and at a timing that we would know who to reach out to call? And I realize that can cause some additional work. And of course that the number of students that are, signing up is occurring during the period. But I do think if we're going to reach out to them in another way than email, it is helpful to know the accurate names from our schools that will be there. Signed up.
Absolutely. I will bring that question to my meeting tomorrow. The one concern that raises in my mind is confidentiality of the list of who's even registered. I don't know the intricacies of that, and I'll just rely on my colleagues to allow me to properly instruct me on that.
Oh, of course. And
Yeah.
if it's helpful, there is an allocation list that does
good.
go to law school. So at least
Nice.
that
Okay.
there might be more to the logistics of the timing and of course, probably wanting to send a finalized version of it versus an in-progress version of it.
Okay.
But I think just for this effort, it would be amazing to know who to call or text if that supports the email. Thank you.
I love it, and in my mind, the more retakers of the general bar exam who take this, the better. So I really appreciate the support from the deans. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you so much for being here. I think we're all definitely appreciative of the opportunity to learn about this program and eager to promote its participation with our graduates.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Natalie, do we have anything else under recent developments?
We don't today, so we're ready to move on to the discussion items.
Okay, great. So you want to start us off on that?
Sure. So we're going to recognize Lizette Garcia from our Office of Research and Statistics. She works on Dr. Lisa Chavez's team, and you've met with Dr. Lisa Chavez before. So over the past several CSBARS meetings, we've been showing you some of the research that ORS has been putting together about law schools in general, ABA schools, Cal Accredited schools, and unaccredited law schools as well. And there were some questions about the attorney population and how the state bar attracts the attorney population as well. So your questions couldn't have been better timed. Recently, the state bar issued its diversity report card. So we asked Lizette, as one of the people participating in the process of creating that report card, to come and join you, to share that report card with you and give you a chance to be able to ask questions. And I see that she's just arriving, so welcome, Lizette.
Hi, thank you all for having us here today. Lisa Chavez and Danielle McRae will also be presenting on this on the diversity report card. If we can, I think Lisa is now here too as well, and I'll start sharing my screen. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. Everyone hear me okay? I'm getting a little scary message about the unstable internet, so hopefully my comments will be brief and I'll hand it over to Lisa Garcia and Danielle McRae. So my name is Lisa Chavez. I'm the Director of the Office of Research and Statistics, and we are delighted to share with you the 2023 Diversity Report Card. Those of you familiar with this report card know that this is something that we try to produce every year. At this point, we produced it 3 times since 2019. And the purpose of this report is really to just take status of what the current attorney population looks like diversity-wise, according to a series of demographics that the State Bar is committed to tracking, and as well as explore trends in admissions among newly admitted attorneys. And so I have here today Lisa Garcia, who will present a lot of the data for the report, and then she will hand it over to Danielle McRae, who's the lead program analyst in the Office of Access and Inclusion, who will be speaking about the diversity seal, which is the State Bar's contribution to the effort of improving diversity in the state. And then I will close out our presentation with a little discussion about race ethnicity. Okay, go ahead, Lisa.
Okay, thank you. Just going on to the next slide for an overview of the diversity report card. So the 2023 report card describes the diversity of California's 2023 attorney population and analyzes changes in the demographic representation since 2019, which again is the first year that we began collecting and reporting attorney demographic data. And this report also explores racial and ethnic and gender patterns in recent cohorts of attorneys admitted to the state bar. New features in this year's report also include analyses on Latino and Asian subgroups among active attorneys, and then also detailed reporting on the intersection of race, ethnicity, and gender identity. And then another section of the report also summarizes the diversity of inactive attorneys. So that's the first report that we published on the subset population of attorneys in California. And then finally, also the report features a section on the DEI leadership seal. So those are the major sections of the report. And now going into our methodology, just giving a brief overview again of this of how we came about this data. So we use the attorney census, which is a voluntary survey administered during the annual licensing fee payment period, and then also we rely on other administrative databases. And we also report on the following demographic characteristics. So we report on race, ethnicity, gender, and transgender identity, sexual orientation, attorneys with disabilities, and veteran status. So moving forward to our first section of the report, we look at the diversity of 2023 licensed attorneys compared with the California adult population. So each analysis for each demographic characteristic has two charts, one that shows the percentages for 2023 and another that shows the 5-year trend. So here in figure 1, we can see we're looking at race, ethnicity, and we can see that in 2023, white people comprise nearly 2/3 of California attorneys, while only 30% of the state's adult population. And we can see that the share of attorneys who are white has also decreased from since 2019, while the share of attorneys who are Asian and multiracial has increased. And then moving on to figure 4, which explores gender identity, we can see that women are half of California's adult population, but just 44% of California's attorneys, and 1% of the attorney population identifies as non-binary. And moving on to the 5-year trend, we can see that the share of men among California attorneys has declined since 2019, and in contrast, the representation of women and attorneys who identify as non-binary has remained the same. And then going on to figure 6, which explores the intersection of race, ethnicity, and gender identity, we can see that white men comprise the largest group of attorneys. On the right column, so we can see that nearly 40%, that they're the biggest group and almost nearly 40%, despite being just 19% of California's adult population. And on the right side, we can see that the representation of men and women of color attorneys in California has grown since 2019, while the proportions of white men and women attorneys have declined. And then here on this page, we have other demographics, so transgender, LGBTQIA+, people with disabilities, and veteran status. The share of attorneys who identify as transgender has remained the same since 2020, which is the first year that we began collecting that data. And the share of attorneys identifying as LGBTQIA+ has grown from 7.3% in 2019 to 9.1% in 2023. The share of attorneys with disabilities has also grown from 4.8% in 2019 to 5.7% in 2023. Veteran status as well. The representation of veterans among California attorneys has grown from 3.2% to 5.1% since 2020, again, when we started collecting that data. And then moving on to our next section, which is the diversity trends among newly admitted attorneys. This figure explores the intersection of race, ethnicity, and gender identity among newly admitted attorneys since 1990. We can see that in 1990, white men were nearly half of all admitted attorneys, and in 2023, they are now just 22%. And then we can also see that the share of men and women of color who comprise newly admitted attorneys has increased significantly since 1990, when both groups comprise just 9% and 8% of newly admitted attorneys. And as of 2023, women of color comprised 33% of newly admitted attorneys, and men of color comprise 21%. And then going on to the intersectional data, we can see the intersectional data of race, ethnicity, and gender identity of attorneys admitted to the state bar from 1990 to 2023. In these charts, we can see that Asian and multiracial women experience the largest growth since 1990. Asian women comprise just 2% of newly admitted attorneys, but in 2023 comprised 13%. And we can see that multiracial women also experienced significant growth, 1% in 1990 and 8% in 2023. And then moving on to our next section, we also included in the 2023 Diversity Report Card a section on the profile of California inactive attorneys. So this analysis was based on several data sources, including a voluntary survey attached to the 2023 application to transfer to inactive status. So we really focus on again, the subset population of inactive attorneys, and we explore how the number of licensees in inactive status has changed over the last 10 years, what their demographics are for those that transferred to inactive status in 2023, and why they opt to leave the practice of law. So that's another section of our report, and then now turning it over to Danielle to present on the DEI Leadership Seal Program.
Thank you, Lisette. We can go ahead to the next slide. As Lisette mentioned, this is the DEI Leadership Seal Program is part of the Diversity Report Card, and that's really because the action items that I'll talk about here in the Diversity Leadership Seal Program were really driven by and came out of DEI best practices that were identified in previous diversity report cards. So the DEI Leadership Seal Program is a program with a goal to recognize California employers who publicly commit to and implement a series of DEI best practices. As I mentioned, those were identified through the work of the 2022 Diversity Report Card. And in developing the program, State Bar staff were really interested in getting stakeholder feedback. We had a lot of focus groups and interviews with stakeholders because we wanted to keep a couple different things in mind as we were developing this program. The first is we wanted a program that prioritized diversity, equity, and inclusion. It wasn't just based on trying to increase diversity at legal employers. Wanted to incentivize commitment to these various action items and also actual action toward them, implementation of the action items. wanted to create a program that required employers to continually evaluate and improve their DEI practices over time. And also, we wanted to be mindful that there are a lot of pre-existing DEI programs out there for employers, particularly in the legal space, when you think about things like Mansfield Rule for law firms. So we can go to the next slide. And so what this program is it's a program available to all legal employers that employ California attorneys, and that can be across sectors. So law firms of all size, in-house legal departments at corporations or other private organizations, law schools, nonprofit organizations, etc. And to be part of the program, employers must commit to pursuing at least 5 of a list of 10 DEI action items. And in committing to pursuing 5 of those, an employer is identified as a participating committed employer, after which point they have a year to actually implement those action items. And once they've implemented at least 5 of those action items, the employer can be recognized as a DEI Leadership Seal recipient. And there are a couple different tiers for our seal recipients based on the number of action items that they ultimately implement. So 5 action items would get bronze tier, 7 would be silver, and 9 action items implemented would allow an organization to be recognized as a gold tier Leadership Seal recipient. And as I mentioned, one of the goals of the program is to have organizations be continuing to kind of iterate and think on and improve their DEI best practices. And so over time, we're imagining that the list of DEI action items will change and also iterate and become more ambitious to kind of ask more of those employers as they continue to participate in the program. And I'll mention that changing of the action items is over several years and would be with a lot of stakeholder feedback. It's not that like one year the list just suddenly changed. That's going to be a really long-term and involved process with our stakeholders. We can go to the next slide. And so we have our first cohort fully in the program. Now they applied last spring, and they're kind of in that implementation year window right now. We actually just closed our application cycle for our second cohort, which is super exciting, but we haven't yet dug into what those applications look like in depth. This is what our cohort looked like for the first go round. So it was primarily private sector employers, some also a lot of nonprofit employers, and those were a lot of legal aid organizations, and then some government agencies and only 1 law school in the first cohort. However, in looking at the applications for the second cohort, we are excited that there was, I think, at least 1, if not 2 more law schools that applied, and also a greater number of government applicants as well, which was exciting to see. We can go to the next slide. And in case you're curious, at a high level, these are what the action items are currently. So there are 2 that are required because we felt that they were really foundational and kind of the basis of the rest of the DEI work. And those are around collecting and maintaining demographic data of employees and creating a strategic DEI plan. But other action items include things like creating and publicly sharing a DEI statement, having staff stay and exit interviews or staff surveys around DEI efforts, and incorporating DEI into performance advancement and compensation decisions at the organization. And we can go to the next slide. And finally, if you're curious and hearing more about the DEI Leadership Seal program, there's a lot of great information on the State Bar website. We have an FAQ document, a resource guide that discusses how various employers can implement these DEI action items in their sector and in their organization. And then finally, again, the report card from 2022 includes calls to action, which were really the basis and foundation of a lot of those DEI action items for the Leadership Seal program. And I think at this point, I'm turning it back over to Lisette and Lisa.
Thank you, Danielle. So I'm sure you all have plenty of questions about the data that Lisette shared and the great information about the program that Danielle shared. But first, before we close out, I just want to share a little bit about race ethnicity. You may have noticed that the categories in this diversity report card are different than those that the CALS and unaccredited are required to report to the State Bar when you're sharing information on students and faculty. And I just wanted to share that, let's go here at the bottom. This is the way we collect information on our attorney census and at the point of admissions. We ask, with which racial and ethnic groups do you identify? Select all that apply. And we make all these response options available, okay? And then we take this information, and then if anyone selects one or more category, we categorize them as multiracial, and then we report the data, okay? So recently, the Office of Management and Budget recently announced a revision to how federal agencies are to collect and present data on race ethnicity. And I wanted to share that that revision is now aligned with how the state bar has been collecting race ethnicity data from attorneys starting in 2019. And so one key difference you should know is that we have a category for Middle Eastern and North African attorneys. I think that the OMBs, that line has, I think it has a few more groups specified there, but now at the federal level, and of course this is going to be implemented for the census and the next census, that category will be there. And they've gotten rid of, which I'm sure you're familiar with, this idea, the two-step process for people to answer questions. So there's always, at the federal level, the previous directions was, the first question is, do you identify as Hispanic, Latino? Yes, no. And then you get a question, what race do you identify with? And then a series of responses. But a response for Hispanic, Latino was not there because their thinking is that Hispanic is an ethnicity, whereas this is about race. And what the OMB did was combine it to be a question about race/ethnicity. And that is always how the state bar has viewed identity in this regard. It's combining race/ethnicity in one question. So I just wanted to share that out with you, just in case that's something that you noticed. And that's all I have to say about that for now. We can close the slide deck now. And we're open to any questions you may have about anything we shared. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead, Natalie.
Okay, so I'll just start and just point out that some schools already know, or others may want to know, they have the opportunity for accredited law schools. One of the things they're required to do under the rules is to create a diversity plan, and schools are not required to pursue the DEI SEAL program, but several schools either are already considering that as part of their diversity plan or thinking about that for the future. So just wanted to put that on the table for everyone.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments with regard to the diversity report card? Yes, Dean Park.
Just want to say I appreciate the presentation, and also that's how it's available on the website. I'm definitely going to look through it more on the website. Oh, sorry, I just got a message to lower the hand. Oh, but yeah, thank you for the presentation. And I was just curious about, in the future, you mentioned how the law schools might be reporting it differently than what's being done over here. Is there any plan to align those in the future?
I'll hand it over to admissions to answer.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Dean Park, that's definitely something that we're always thinking about just in general. So you know that we've been rolling in different categories over the past several years. So that is something to think about.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? I did just want to mention that Dean Park mentioned the diversity report card being on the website. It has a lot of great features that let you drill down, which I would definitely, so if you have any interest, I would definitely recommend you to check out the website and take advantage of some of those features that let you explore more deeply.
I think I have a follow-up to that, because the type of information is definitely the type to go through more and have questions. you know, is there sort of an ongoing inbox that you can reach out to if you have questions after reviewing the data? For the public or for the law school deans, either way.
Yeah, we have an inbox, survey data at calbar.ca.gov, where you can submit any questions or follow up about the data that we have in the online report.
And is that something that's actually listed as a contact with the report? Sorry if it's there already, but I was just scanning.
I believe so. Yeah, it should be online in the intro pages. Mhm.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Great. All right, so that wraps up our last discussion item for today. So we're giving you back almost an hour of your schedule today. I thank everybody for being here, for your time and attention.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.